free of estate taxes, free of generation skipping taxes, so that money can sit there and grow, and it's not going to get hit with an estate tax at each level when that generation passes on. Hi, Jeff Mersanci, the Plain English Attorney, and welcome to the video. Today we are going to talk about a really exciting topic, 2024 death taxes, and exactly what do they mean and what are they. So let's start out by talking about the different levels. There's the federal level and then there's the state level. Both have their own potential death taxes. So you're not just talking about one combined government entity. You have these two entities that both have their own ways of potentially taxing them. Now, not all states have these death taxes, but some of them do, and they're separate from federal in most cases. All right, so let's talk about what exactly are death taxes. It's not one tax. There isn't anything in the government and in the tax code that's, quote, death taxes. It's a political term. It's a way of wrapping up several different types of taxes. So at the federal level, we have estate taxes. The estate tax is on your entire wealth when you die. You add everything up, so it's a tax on you and your estate when you pass on. So if you are above a certain level, which federally is currently $13,610,000. If you're above that amount, okay, everything gets taxed above that amount. Not the whole thing, just everything above that $13,610,000. If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel. So that's the federal estate tax. Now, we also have, along with that, a generation skipping tax, and this is probably the most complex one because most people aren't using generation skipping as part of their estate plan. The general plan is, okay, well, when I pass on, I'm leaving everything equally to my kids, and, well, if one of my kids passes on, their share, that kid's share, will drop down to their children. Very, very typical for estate planning. But there sometimes could be, well, I'm going to skip over children and go right to grandchildren. And if you're uber wealthy, trying to do that means you're avoiding a whole generation of estate taxes, and that's where this generation skipping tax comes in. It basically means if you're above the generation skipping tax amount, that you're going to get slapped with a 55% tax for all the money that skips over a generation, in addition to whatever estate taxes you may be paying. Okay, so that's a disincentive to do that. Now, the best way to look at these two taxes is as if you had a bank of credits. So in other words, it's these, quote, get out of tax-free cards. You've got currently, each person has $13,610,000 for estate taxes and $13,610,000 for generation skipping taxes. They're really two separate banks of money that you have on credit with the IRS, so that when you pass on and you're leaving an estate, you get to leave that $13,610,000 without estate taxes. And if you're skipping over a generation, you've got that $13,610,000. That's your bank of credits. Okay, so that's the way that works. Let's throw in gift taxes. How does that work at the federal level? Well, in 2024, it's bumped up to $18,000 per year you can give to any individual and as many individuals as you want. So, okay, if you have 3 kids and you want to leave $18,000 to one child, that's fine. You can give an additional to the second child of $18,000, and then the same thing for the third. So you can give away that $18,000 without any gift taxes. Well, okay, how does this gift tax work? If you give more than that $18,000 to a particular individual, you're required to fill out a gift tax form and file it with the federal government so that it will take that additional amount. Let's just say you gave $30,000 to someone. All right, that's an additional $12,000. Well, what happens? You pay a tax on that? First, that $12,000 gets deducted from your bank of estate tax credits. So it comes out of your bank of credits with the federal government and reduces it. So you don't actually pay any kind of gift tax unless you run through that entire $13,610,000. So that's the way the gift tax works. So this is why, just to avoid two things, to avoid reducing that estate amount, there are a lot of people who will only gift away up to that $18,000, so they don't have to, so that it's not going to reduce their credits. But also, they don't want the hassle of having to go to their accountant to file a gift tax form in order to give more. So, right, but wait a minute, I've been getting larger checks from my parents. This is something that we're going to talk about at both the estate and gift and generation skipping tax level. For gift taxes, if parents, both of you, each person gets that $18,000, so we may end up seeing within this year parents giving $36,000 down because they're using both of their credits to get it down to the next generation or successive generations. Now, it's also important to note that this isn't going to do anything to take away from your generation skipping tax amounts. It's just not counted. The generation skipping is only when you pass on. So that's the gift taxes in generation skipping taxes, and estate taxes explained. So again, those amounts, $13,610,000 from estate taxes, $13,610,000 in generation skipping tax credits, and $18,000 per year for as many individuals as you want to get. And these all can be doubled up. So one way, and we're probably going to do another video on this, something called a credit shelter trust. This is where a married couple can kind of double up and utilize both of their $13,610,000 to avoid estate taxes. So the biggest mistake that a couple with $13,600,000, well, let's just say they've got $27 million. The worst thing they can do is, oh, I'm just leaving everything to my spouse, which isn't going to have any estate taxes anyway. And then when they pass on, they've only got their $13 million in credits. No, we want to have a way to capture and utilize both of those estate tax credits. So what about at the state level? The state has the ability, and some of them do, to have all of those taxes at the state level as well. And their thresholds might be far lower than that $13,610,000 at the federal level. So there are certain states that have a much lower level. Now, usually the tax is not as onerous as you would see with the federal level. Basically, you should count on 40% of everything above the estate tax limit and your estate tax credits to be slammed with an estate tax at the federal level. Usually the rates are significantly less, but still big. I mean, 13, 14%. When you add that on top of whatever federal estate tax is, that can get to be a lot. So you can see why a lot of people might want to do planning to avoid those types of taxes. Now, here is one tax that we do not have at the federal level, but you might see at the state level, and that's an inheritance tax. And that kind of falls under the whole thing with death taxes, but there's a big significant difference here. It's not based on your estate. In other words, they don't look at your whole estate and say, oh, well, it's going to be this inheritance tax. No, they're taxing the person who is receiving that inheritance. So it's on their taxes. So even if you're $13,610,000 exactly, it gets split among the three kids, but one of those kids happens to live in a state that has an inheritance tax, their share may be subject to an inheritance tax at the state level. So that has nothing to do with what you're planning, and there really isn't all that much that you can do in order to have that recipient avoid that inheritance tax without getting pretty complex on it. So yeah, you have these inheritance taxes potentially in a few states where the beneficiary is going to get that hit with that tax. One of the biggest missed opportunities that are out there that you can take advantage of, it's something called a perpetual legacy trust. So a lot of times people aren't even looking at that generation skipping tax bank of credits that they have, because they have exactly that estate planning desire that I mentioned, where, okay, it's going to go to the kids. And if, only if, one of the kids passes on before you, that it's going to drop down to the next generation. Well, if you want, and you have this desire, let me set up a perpetual legacy trust. I'm going to have my wealth go into that trust up to whatever those generation skipping tax exemptions are. The money goes into that trust, and if it's structured the right way, that money is now there for all of your successive generations, free of estate taxes, free of generation skipping taxes, so that money can sit there and grow, and it's not going to get hit with an estate tax at each level when that generation passes on. It's put in there to make sure that the successive generations have money. Now, the best way to think about this isn't, oh, I want to make my grandkids and my kids filthy rich. The idea really is you want that money there for the great-great-great-great-grandchildren that you will never meet, and have that wealth go there. So look, if you've got that desire, there's a way to do it. So we do have a video that we're going to link to that talks about that in more detail. So please go ahead and check it out if that is something that interests you. So I hope you found that information useful. As I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, enjoy life. And I'm going to add one more thing here. If you like the content in this video, we do now have a way that you can get a membership, and that membership will come with a free live stream that's exclusive to members and people from my law firm who sign up for our Peace of Mind program and our Client Resource Center. It's only available to you. So please check that out and see if it's going to be worth your time. So check out some of the other videos and make it a great day.